Ordinary human beings are being bombed to death.
I think we can solve this conflict in a peaceful and diplomatic ways.
Trump is not the solution to our problems, he is the problem.
I think our government is a group of monsters.
This war cannot bring any kind of solution to our problems. It only puts us all at risk. It only kills innocent people.
We don't want attack. We would like, as soon as possible, stop by the war.
We don't want more wars. We don't want more invasions. It's enough. That's why I'm here today.
On the 23rd of March, amid the ongoing war between the United States and Iran, President Donald Trump announced that both countries have been in talks over the past 2 days, and that the US has agreed to pause attacks on Iranian energy sites for 5 days. Trump described the conversations between the US and Iran as in-depth, detailed, and constructive, and said that they will continue throughout the week. In his signature all-caps style, Trump wrote this in a post on Truth Social. "I'm pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran have had, over the last 2 days, very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East."
They're very much in mind in the discussions. So the discussions took place yesterday. They went into yesterday evening. They want very much to make a deal. We'd like to make a deal too. We're going to get together today by probably phone, because it's very hard to find a country. It's very hard for them to get out, I guess. But we'll at some point very, very soon meet. We're doing a 5-day period. We'll see how that goes. And if it goes well, we're going to end up with settling this. Otherwise, we'll just keep bombing our little hearts out.
The fresh move by the US president came without much anticipation, as both sides had shown no signs of de-escalation till recently. In fact, Trump's announcement comes a day after he issued a 48-hour ultimatum to Iran, warning of strikes on its energy infrastructure if Tehran failed to fully reopen the Strait of Hormuz. On the 21st of March, Trump threatened Iran, saying the US would obliterate Iran's power plants if Tehran doesn't reopen the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours. He wrote on Truth Social, and I quote, "If Iran doesn't fully open without threat the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours from this exact point in time, the United States of America will hit and obliterate their various power plants, starting with the biggest one first." Tehran, on the other hand, showed no signs of backing down. In fact, unswayed by Trump's deadline, Tehran vowed to strike back. Trump's declaration came as the war consuming West Asia has entered its 4th week. As of the 22nd of March, the Israeli ministry said that more than 160 people have been injured in Iranian strikes on southern Israel. Ballistic missiles hit these towns of Israel, Dimona and Arad, which are close to a nuclear facility. As of now, all eyes are on the Strait of Hormuz to see if Iran's threat to close the vital trade passage permanently turns into a dangerous reality. So, what is the Strait of Hormuz and why is it important? What is the cost of Iran-Israel-US war? How has the Iran war hit the global economy? Is this energy crisis worse than the 1970s oil turmoil? And in the past 4 weeks, how has the false flag debate spiraled in and out of West Asia? All these and more on WION Wideangle this week. The West Asia war has reached a critical turning point after almost a month since the US-Israel attack on Iran on February 28th, assassinating Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. On the 23rd of March, Trump said that he has directed a 5-day suspension of planned military strikes against Iran's energy grid and power plants, citing very good and productive conversations aimed at a complete and total resolution of the war. Iranian state TV, however, reported that no talks had taken place between Iran and the United States. Listen in.
The US president claimed that talks had been held between Tehran and Washington, and they have spread this in the news. I tried to obtain information on this matter from informed sources in the highest authorities, and we shared it on the network. They stated that no talks had taken place between Iran and the United States. Trump's pronouncement about these conversations is a lie.
Despite Trump's peace talks claims, multiple strikes were reported across several cities in Iran with no sign of de-escalation. Huge explosions have been reported in the Iranian capital, Tehran, while attacks also targeted the cities of Tabriz, Isfahan, and Karaj. Israeli Defense Forces, or IDF, said in a statement that it had carried out strikes against infrastructure in the Iranian capital of Tehran and targeted the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, or IRGC. Iranian media also reported that 2 of their gas facilities and a pipeline were hit hours after Trump postponed planned attacks on power infrastructure. Meanwhile, Iran also launched multiple waves of counterattacks against US and Israeli targets. Iran's IRGC said in a statement that it struck US military bases with drones and missiles, as well as military infrastructure in Tel Aviv and other areas in Israel. As conflicting claims are emerging over peace talks, it is important to note that the center of this West Asia war has led to a massive energy catastrophe with global repercussions, as Iran has effectively closed the Strait of Hormuz, a vital artery for the world's crude oil, which has sent global markets into a tailspin. So what is the Strait of Hormuz and why is it important? Let's understand. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the world's most important shipping routes and its most vital oil transit choke point. Bounded to the north by Iran and to the south by Oman and the United Arab Emirates, the corridor, which is only about 50 kilometers wide at its entrance and exit and about 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, connects the Gulf with the Arabian Sea. According to estimates from the U.S. Energy Information Administration, in 2025, about 20 million barrels of oil passed through the Strait of Hormuz per day. That oil comes not only from Iran, but also from other Gulf states such as Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. About 3,000 or so ships usually sail through the strait each month. Iran exports about 1.7 million barrels per day, according to the International Energy Agency. Iran exported $67 billion worth of oil in the financial year ending March 2025, its highest oil revenue in the past decade. A blockade of the strait will also hit Asia hard. China alone is estimated to buy around 90% of the oil that Iran exports to the global market. China uses that oil to make products it then exports to other countries. Higher oil prices could also mean higher prices for consumers around the world. Following the ultimatum, Iran said the Strait of Hormuz would remain open to all shipping except vessels linked to its enemies, referring to the United States and Israel.
From our perspective, this is a waterway located next to Iran. Naturally, we will not allow our enemies to use this waterway. At the same time, a war is taking place around it, and naturally, many ships and countries may not want to use this route due to insecurity. Some countries contact us to discuss safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz, and we try to provide them with the conditions for such passage.
The main problem for the markets is that Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of global oil is transiting. But it's more than this. On top of that, there have been extensive damage to oil facilities in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in Kuwait, in the UAE. And even if the Strait of Hormuz reopens tomorrow, it will take much longer to resume normal supplies. We had an interview with the head of Qatar Energy boss this week, and he said that essentially he may not be able to supply gas to his customers in Europe and Asia, to some of his customers in Europe and Asia, for 3 to 5 years. That tells you a little bit what's happening on a grand scheme of things.
As of the 24th of March, 4 Indian-flagged vessels, including LPG tankers, Shivalik and Nanda Devi, have successfully passed through the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just an oil route, it's a lifeline for the global economy. A severe energy crisis looms as the war in West Asia intensifies. Blocking off the vital Strait of Hormuz impacts global oil supplies. A shutdown could disrupt up to $2 to $2.3 billion worth of oil every single day, sending shock waves through supply chains worldwide. From aviation and shipping to plastics, chemicals and even fertilizers, the ripple effects would hit multiple industries. The new phase of the war started when Iran carried out a retaliatory missile strike on Ras Laffan, Qatar's vast energy complex. That target produces roughly a fifth of the world's liquefied natural gas, a transportable fuel used to heat homes, cook food, power factories and generate electricity throughout Asia and Europe. Sri Lanka prepares for the impact of a prolonged war in West Asia. It raises fuel prices by 25%, the second such increase in 2 weeks. Regular petrol is being increased to 398 rupees or $1.30, while diesel, the fuel commonly used for public transport, rises by 79 rupees to 382 or $1.25.
The increase in fuel prices affects our lives both directly and indirectly. It's hard to imagine what situations we will face in the future. When fuel prices go up, the prices of food and other essential goods also increase.
In Nepal, residents are facing a severe cooking gas LPG shortage, causing long queues of empty cylinders at distribution centers. Reportedly, the Nepal Oil Corporation is distributing half-filled cylinders to manage limited supply.
Right now there is a gas shortage. We have to go to the market or the dealer and register our name for gas, but there's no way of knowing when you will get it.
Bangladesh, the country of 170 million people, imports 95% of its oil and gas needs. Following the West Asia War, the national oil company, Bangladesh Petroleum Corporation, restricted fuel sales for most vehicles. Bangladesh launched fuel rationing, creating long queues at filling stations.
I see a long queue here. There is adequate fuel, but people are worried if the fuel goes stocked out. Hence, many people are filling the tanks in advance.
As of March 2026, India has over 333 million active domestic LPG connections, making it one of the largest cooking gas networks globally. With roughly 60% of requirements imported, the government invoked emergency powers, directing refineries to ramp up domestic LPG output, urging households with piped natural gas or PNG to switch to ease demand. Despite assurance from the government in Surat, a key textile hub in India, the factory owners turned to firewood as an alternative to keep boilers running. The weavers say that gas-dependent units are facing significant challenges, with many factory owners halting production temporarily.
Since the war started, the factory was only operational for 5 days, and after that operations were halted.
And then there are these visuals. Migrant workers in the city were seen returning to their hometowns after reportedly facing a gas shortage.
We are returning to our village. For 5 days we didn't have gas. The company we work for is also about to be shut down, so what can we do? We are starving to death. Therefore, we are forced to return.
The International Energy Agency, or IEA, warns that the world is facing an energy crisis worse than the 1970s and the fallout of Russia-Ukraine war.
Many of us remember the two consecutive oil crises in 1970s, 1973 and 1979. And at that time, in each of the crises, the world has lost about 5 million barrels per day. Both of them together 10 million barrels per day. And after that, we all know that there was major economic problems around the world, the recessions. And today, only as of today, we lost 11 million barrels per day. So more than 2 major oil shocks put together. Plus, after the Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the gas markets, especially in Europe, we lost about 75 billion cubic meters, 75 BCM. And as of now, as a result of this crisis, we lost about 140 BCM, almost twice.
So what happened in the 1970s? Let's break down the oil crisis and understand how the current global oil crisis is compared with it. On the 6th of October 1973, Egypt and Syria launched an attack on Israel to reclaim territory Arab nations had lost 6 years earlier. The 1967 Six-Day War had resulted in the Israeli occupation of Syria's Golan Heights, Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, the Gaza Strip, which Egypt previously controlled, and the West Bank and East Jerusalem, which Jordan had controlled. King Faisal of Saudi Arabia warned the then US President Richard Nixon that supporting Israel would jeopardize oil supplies. But despite that, Nixon authorized a large military airlift. So in October 1973, Arab oil-exporting nations imposed an oil embargo, among other measures on the United States and other countries that had supported Israel during the Yom Kippur War. Gasoline prices skyrocketed. Gas stations rationed supplies, leading to long lines and complaints of price gouging. In Europe, some countries banned driving on Sundays, and Japan, heavily dependent on oil imports, declared a state of emergency. The Netherlands, Portugal, and South Africa were also targeted for their roles in providing support to Israel. At the time, West Asia accounted for 36% of world oil production, and the embargo left the world short of 4.5 million barrels of oil per day.
It's probably the most significant crisis since the Arab oil embargo in the 70s. And every day it continues. It's actually beginning to look even more dramatic. So unless this kind of stops somehow miraculously in the next few days, we're going to see a very big jump in prices in every single material around the world, from energy to food, because actually farmers depend on fertilizers, and there's a lot of fertilizers that are being produced in the region. There's a lot of scarcity which is coming our way if it doesn't stop fairly quickly.
The past 4 weeks were also rocked by allegations of false flag operations that emerged during the unfolding of war involving the United States, Israel, and Iran. A false flag attack is a deceptive operation conducted by a nation or entity to make it appear as though an enemy or third party is responsible, serving as a pretext for war or further military action. On the one hand, the world witnessed Gulf countries getting embroiled in the war, and then there was news of targets that experts say could change the equation. This is Diego Garcia, the world's largest island of the Chagos archipelago located in the Indian Ocean. It serves as a strategic asset for the US military. Currently home to about 2,500 mostly American personnel, Diego Garcia has supported American military operations from Vietnam to Iraq and Afghanistan. The United States has described the Diego Garcia base as an all but indispensable platform for security operations in West Asia, South Asia, and East Africa. The US deployed several nuclear-capable B-2 Spirit bombers to Diego Garcia last year amid an intense airstrike campaign targeting Yemen's Houthis. So how did the tiny island create ripples during the Iran war? On the 19th of March, Iran was accused of launching 2 intermediate-range ballistic missiles towards the island, but it failed to hit the base. On Monday, the spokesperson for the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ismail Baghei, denied targeting the joint military base of the United States and the United Kingdom on the Indian Ocean island of Diego Garcia by calling it an Israeli false flag. He took to X and wrote that even the NATO Secretary General, who is infamously pressing alliance members to appease the US and support their illegal war on Iran, declines to endorse Israel's most recent disinformation, speaks volumes. The world has grown thoroughly exhausted with these tired and discredited false flag storylines. The incident has drawn attention as Diego Garcia lies at a distance of at least 4,000 kilometers from Iran, raising concerns about Iran's military capabilities to strike at such a distance. But earlier this month, the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said that they had intentionally limited themselves to below 2,000 kilometers of range. Though there is still no clarity on the capability of Iranian missiles to reach targets so far away, some reports claim that the recently failed Iranian missile had managed to travel 3,000 kilometers from its launching site.
The logic of targeting Diego Garcia specifically, from a military point of view, it is a critical US bomber base, which is partly why there's been such high stakes negotiations between the UK and the Mauritian government, mixed up with the long-term US lease of that base. Not many concerns from the Iranian point of view that they hit something devastating in terms of collateral damage that they didn't mean to. So in that sense, also, Diego is probably quite an attractive target. And it also still gets the message across that, oh, look, we do actually have some ability to strike things at considerably longer distances, at least theoretically, than the US or potentially European countries think.
On the 21st of March, Bahrain admitted that for the first time a Patriot missile was involved in the explosion over the Mahaza neighborhood on the Sitra Island, located offshore from the capital Manama, which is home to a major oil refinery. The blast injured at least 32 people. CENTCOM and Bahrain initially stated an Iranian drone caused the explosion, but a recent open-source analysis report claimed it wasn't an Iranian drone as initially reported. Viewed in some circles as part of an alleged wider false flag operation, this incident involves accusations that Iran is being blamed for strikes it did not conduct. In mid-March, NATO member Turkey reported multiple interceptions of Iranian ballistic missiles. Reports at the time said NATO air defense systems were activated amid fears of escalation. Notably, this occurred when NATO was still not directly involved in the war in any military capacity. Both the Iranian military and the foreign ministry denied firing missiles or drones towards Turkey. Tehran formally communicated this to Ankara and proposed a joint probe. It also warned of possible Israeli false flag operations aimed at damaging Iran-Turkey relations. The war across West Asia continues to rage, and with the false flag operations, the war is only expected to keep escalating. Reportedly, over 1,500 have been killed and 21,000 have been injured in Iran so far. American and Israeli officials have also reported military personnel losses, with reports of damage to U.S. infrastructure and high casualties. At this point, a lot remains uncertain. However, what's certain is that, on the ground, the war hasn't paused, even after Trump's 5-day pause declaration. The United States has now reportedly sent a 15-point proposal to Iran to end this deadly war. Will Iran say yes to the proposal and end the war?